Hi, my name is Shannon Costello and I'm a registered dietitian with Corporate Fitness Works. Today we're in my home kitchen and we are going to make a frittata using our weekly leftovers. I like to call this everything but the kitchen sink frittata because you can put almost any type of leftover in this egg dish. A frittata is just that. It's an egg dish similar to a quiche but without the crust. And the great thing about frittatas is that once they're in the oven, they are hands off. They're easy to portion and they make multiple servings perfect for family breakfast or prepping multiple portions for the week ahead. This is also a really simple dish to get a serving or two of vegetables into your day. And that's where our leftovers come in. So a frittata uses an egg and milk mixture as the base, which provides protein, some fat for satiety, tons of flavor, and loads of nutrients. The milk is what helps create this fluffy texture for the eggs, as well as the yolks. It's okay to eat the whole egg. The egg yolk holds the majority of the egg's nutrients, including choline, tryptophan, and tyrosine, which are all needed for heart health. And of course, it has vitamins A, D, and E, which are all fat-soluble vitamins. So it's the perfect combination that the yolk holds a little bit of the egg's fat as well as all those fat-soluble vitamins. So the first step to this frittata after preheating the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit is to whisk the eggs and either your reduced fat milk or an unsweetened nut milk into a mixing bowl. And then you can also add any desired seasonings. So I am going to add some oregano, and then I'll use some fresh cracked pepper and a little bit of sea salt, not only for flavor, but that salt helps kind of hold everything together and helps in the baking portion. Hello, leftovers. This is where you can use anything you have on hand, such as cooked veggies, different types of proteins, cheeses, and even grains. Aim to use at least one ingredient from each meal component category. So we have protein and some fat in our egg and milk mixture already, but you can add other lean proteins such as shredded poultry, ground meat, cubed tofu, lentils, canned beans, sliced salmon, baby shrimp. And if you're trying to clear out your freezer, you can use some of the breakfast meats you already have on hand. Just make sure that anything that's frozen in the frittata is pre-cooked before putting it in there. You can add some extra fat and protein with any variety of cheese. If you have sliced cheese, just tear it up into small pieces like it's shredded. We have some left over here. One of my friends gave me some dairy-free cheese to try out, so this is a good way to test it out. Crumbled cheeses, I typically save for the top of the frittata when it's about 5 minutes away from being finished baking, just because they have a little more moisture in them and can prevent the egg from baking fully if you put it in too soon. Cheese is just another great way to add some flavor and satiety. Now the main part of your show should be the vegetables, both non-starchy and complex carbs. Non-starchy veggies might be onions and bell peppers, zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, mushrooms, leafy greens, the list goes on. We actually have some leftover raw onion and bell pepper. They were already sliced and we just had like a little bit of it left. So once it's sliced, it tends to go bad a little quicker, even in the refrigerator. So I wanted to make sure I used some of that up. I just had a tiny bit of spinach left in the bag. I didn't want that to get too moist sitting there, so a small handful. And then just a variety, I believe this is actually a frozen bag that someone took out of the freezer in preparation for a meal that they didn't actually use. So instead of refreezing it, I'm just gonna throw it in our frittata now. You can also use, shredded hash browns, even diced hash browns, or just generic diced and baked white or sweet potatoes. That goes really well with eggs. If the veggies aren't already cooked and you need to use them up for example, like we have the onions and bell peppers, then you can spend an extra couple of minutes sauteing this on the stove before throwing it in there. We actually don't mind the crunch of these and the extra bite from the onions. They'll soften a little bit in the oven, but they're not fully cooked. Lastly, we have our complex carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are really important for breakfast because they give us the fuel for our muscles and our brain to get us through the day. So to start your day with complex carbohydrates is really good to give you that sustainable energy. This can easily be paired on the side of your frittata, such as whole grain toast, fresh fruit, or those breakfast potatoes. But why not use some of your leftovers and get creative with your frittata? You can throw brown rice, quinoa, and even cooked pasta noodles in there. These will add satiety, fiber, and energy into the frittata, so don't skip out on these breakfast carbs. Now you can either use a circle or a square pan, whatever you have on hand. I prefer to line mine with parchment paper and then spray it with cooking oil, but you don't have to do that at all. You can just lightly spray it with your cooking oil so it doesn't stick, and then add your choice of leftovers. So you just want to make sure that they are evenly spaced throughout the pan. We're going to get big chunks of broccoli in this apparently. Yum! This looks really good. And just make sure that they're spread out. You're adding some color. Now this is important when you're coming to fill your pan. Because we are saving the eggs and milk for last, we want to make sure that we're not overfilling the pan. Of course, it might depend on how many leftovers you have. Here comes my chickpea-based pasta. Lots of protein, fiber, and again, that carbohydrate for energy. Who wants pasta for breakfast, right? And again, with any of these raw veggies, feel free to saute them, steam them, whatever you need to do to make this enjoyable for you. We're trying to get a lot of color in here. That's the idea. Okay, so if you can see, I haven't filled this more than halfway. I'm leaving plenty of room for the actual egg and milk mixture. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this over very carefully, and you can use a spatula to get any remaining liquids out of there. If you have seasonings, those tend to settle at the bottom of the bowl. And then I just like to give a little bit of a push to help that liquid fully coat and cover all of the ingredients. Excuse me, that is my sous chef cheering us on, my very vocal sous chef in the background. As I was saying, I just like to give the egg mixture a little push to fully coat the ingredients and fill in all those spaces. And then I saved a little bit of my cheese to melt right on top. And then I'll also finish with some fresh cracked pepper and a little more oregano. So whatever seasonings you choose, you can always top it off with that. As I mentioned, if you're using crumbled cheese, I would save it until it's a little more baked and almost finished. So this will go in the oven for anywhere between 20 to 35 minutes, just depending on the size of your pan and how deep it is. But once the edges start to slightly pull away and get a little golden brown and the top is firm, so it's not jiggly like you see it is now, then that's a good sign that your frittata is ready. All right, so we are going to let this cool for about 5 up to 10 minutes, and then we can slice it into your desired portion sizes, either squares or triangles if you're using a circle or square pan. Serve while it's warm and let any leftovers cool off before storing it in the refrigerator. Since we already used leftovers to make this dish, it most likely shouldn't stay in the fridge for more than 1 to 2 days, but that just depends on how old your leftover mix-ins are. All right, I'm ready to eat some breakfast for lunch. Enjoy.